Welcome to the all-new updated Royal Base deck gameplay guide with the whole new support in BT23 with TIGERVESPAMON Ace. And today we got our friend Dan piloting this deck, which he's been showing some interest. And today in this first game, we're going to show you guys the explosive firepower of how you can OTK your opponent's security out of nowhere. If you guys are familiar with All Force Digimon, it means we like to call this B Force. So Dan is going second overall. He's keeping this hand. He wanted to use Royal Base, but the thing is with the option card, you don't ignore color requirements. You still have to fulfill both black and green, which isn't really much of an issue because all you have to do is just evo into Queenbeemon at the back, and then he has that color requirement and he can use it, put the opponent to 1 memory by digivolving for 1 into Queenbeemon, and then 2 with the Royal Base, setting it up so that he can then digivolve for reduced cost. Meanwhile, the opponent is also trying to set up, they're playing the new AVAULT deck, which is Poseidon, and that does come with quite explosive attacks as well at the same time. But generally, what you want to do with the Royal Base deck is that you want to push out your stack and then use your Puromon's inherent effect to try to cycle through your security as soon as possible. The idea is you want to set up as many face-up security cards as you can so that you can gain additional buffs while they're in there. At the same time, it's essentially like drawing a card from the top of your security stack so you can find other pieces that you need. So for that choice, he decided to digivolve into Waspmon. Although Royal Base's cost reduction effect is mandatory, he still chose to evo Waspmon for 3 costs instead, and then with the mandatory reduction, it will turn it into 2 costs instead of evoing for 1, and then he'll be at 0 memory, and then he'll have to like pass the opponent to more than 1 memory afterwards, because his whole idea is to try to give the opponent as little to work with as possible. Take his time because he wants to set up eventually to go for the OTK burst play, which is just absolutely insane when you guys see it. So he's going to use a second Royal Base to cycle through another card now, and we're having 2 Royal Bases which he hasn't used the cost reduction effect yet. He gets to evo into Queenbeemon for 1 cost, once again putting the opponent to 1. The opponent probably recognizes that this is probably going to be a pretty sticky situation for them already, because they're going to be able to make so many attacks in the following turn if they go into TIGERVESPAMON themselves. This is a pretty good position that Dan is in, because if the opponent attacks, he'll get to ace into TIGERVESPAMON for free. If they don't attack, he's still going to evo into it for 1 cost in the following turn with the alternative digivolution requirements, since it evos on top of a Royal Base that's level 5 for 3 costs instead, and the opponent has to give him at least 1 memory no matter what. So the OTK is kind of happening regardless here. The opponent does get a bit of protection with the Dokkamon from battle, I believe, but all they do is gonna swing and try to like retuck some sources and then draw more cards. They're still finding and trying to set up what they need because there's no tamers, there's not enough like delay options. So here comes down the Blast Digivolve of the TIGERVESPAMON Ace. With that, they're gonna tuck away a face-up card from their hand, which is going to be the Forge Beemon, into the base, and then basically bounce the opponent's Digimon. And if the opponent doesn't have an answer to this whatsoever, which they only play a tamer to end, then this means the OTK is basically online. I can see that Dan probably has the pieces that he needs to go for all those swings because he has like 6 face-up security. So that is basically equivalent to 6 swings. So he's cycling through his security with Puromon's anyways, but I also see that he has that spicy tech card, which is going to be Final Zubagon Punch, which works really well alongside in this deck because your TIGERVESPAMON usually is 12k base. In your stack, you're going to always gain at least 1k within the inherited effects. You know, not necessarily needing the face-up security to give you that extra bonus DP buff. So with that by default, you can reach 16k easily and swing 2 checks at a time as you unsuspend non-stop with it. And at the same time, you have Cannon B protection with the new one, which is just absolutely insane, and this is one of the fastest games of Royal Base you guys will ever see. This game facing off against Examon, which got a whole new Examon in BT23 as well, really strong, and try to see how this kind of compares. Generally in this matchup, I think this is the same game plan. Dan is just going to try to set up as many face-up securities as possible to go for a potential OTK attack turn, just because Examon does have blocker that can be a little bit tricky to deal with, especially the new one does have partition as well, and they can potentially threaten aces as well because they have a lot of toolbox and control elements that can be tricky to go against. But one of the key things is, I think, is to set up a potential Queenbeemon, which is the older one, so that it can de-digivolve so that you can play around those Examons as well as also gain value from the aces at the same time. So in those positions, you can really actually capitalize off of and sort of like get rid of that Examon to deal with it, so then you can, get it clear and then start swinging into security and go for that OTK combo or go for the unsuspending combos to attack over and over. In the beginning stages, both players are really just trying to set up. It looks like Examon is just like cycling through like crazy with like their Dracomon and as well as this Draco X as well, and then now being able to like attack and draw cards with the Cordra. Unfortunately, that does get deleted, so lucky for Dan not having that 8k Queenbeemon, which is that specific one I'm talking about to sort of Digivolve to play around your opponent's potential aces. Just because once they establish a Wingdramon or Grounddramon on the board, you kind of have to respect that they might go into an Examon ace, and that can be kind of tricky to play around if you don't have the resources ready to go either. So like I mentioned, they do go into this Groundra. They're not going to be able to stun down anything, but that's okay because like for Examon, again, like I mentioned, that threatens the ace already. So now Dan needs to like think of a way to maybe, I don't think he needs to deal with this right off the bat. I think like setting up like this is not too bad either. Just being able to like have the UG, which I think he's just like testing out at the moment to see how it goes, just because it works together with the Royal Base because they all have X antibody trait, and you can like push out, gain a memory, and draw a card, which is actually for free, which is really good. And you get to tuck additional sources underneath to either give yourself extra DP boosts or even like protection or even like, trashing the opponent's security, which is very nice as well. I think it works quite neatly together. So it looks like the opponent is going to continue to search and find some pieces here at the same time. They could be missing a few things there, here and there, or maybe they're just waiting and anticipating for an attack to happen. Either way, he's going to push out now, draw one, gain one for pushing out, and then being able to use Parola's effect to tuck away the Waspmon, so now he gains extra 1k. And with the Queenbeemon alongside together with Royal Base, it's going to both reduce the cost by one of going into this Waspmon, and since he has one of your tamers, he can play out Fae for free. Now he can Digivolve into a Queenbeemon. Now I don't think he has the older one to work with, so he goes into this newer one instead, which doesn't really do too much when you Digivolve into it, just provides it like protection mostly. So then you can consider going into your stack or not. Now I see he has both level 6 choices. He can either go into Queen Bee or he can go into TIGERVESPAMON. I think generally the play would be to go into TIGERVESPAMON, and then you would just bounce the Grounddramon away and you can actually start attacking. The thing is, I can see he's trying to be a bit more reserved here as well because he doesn't really have the OTK combo ready to go just yet. Since the opponent is still at 5 of security, maybe he's trying to see if there's a way to set this up. Now he does have agility training plus a protoform. The only thing is that you can't use both of them together at the same time. So now he doesn't really have that option to go into TIGERVESPAMON and still keep turn. But I think it's still not the worst thing that if he tries to go into it, and after going into it here, he can stand the TIGERVESPAMON, bounce the Grounddramon to hand, and the opponent's really left with one memory to work with, and with only like 2 Dracomons on the board and a boost, not too confident on how they can actually still climb into an Examon either way. So here they do go ahead and do that. So with TIGERVESPAMON Ace going to tuck away the Queen Bee into security, bouncing that Groundra back up. But that does give the opponent a way to access into one again, just because it can stun down something. And you can kind of like slow the turn down to prevent the OTK from happening on the opponent's side when they do play out that Groundra somehow. So they are going to push out, go into Draco. Draco's going to toss away a card, draw one and gain one. And wow. Another Draco X. The opponent is cycling a lot, which is really good, being able to climb up the stack like that, going into Cordra for free. Dan doesn't have blocker to stop any attacks, so they are going to just go ahead and swing into security right here, checking into Winner, which is great value because now he's going to constantly be able to gain memory at the start of main, and he can also like use his main effect to Digivolve from the security if he ever needs to as well off its secondary effect. But now we're seeing if the opponent's able to get into Examon this particular turn, which they can, because what they normally do is they can, pop the boost, gain that memory, hard drop a Groundra or Wingdra, and then the Cordra can evolve into a Wingdra for reduced cost, and then like use the end of turn to DNA as well, which can happen. But Dan is going to gain quite a lot of memory off that play. So it can be alright, and it really just comes down to which Examon they're gonna be playing into, or maybe they're just trying to, do an ace play as well. But it looks like they do slam down the Groundra here. With the Groundra, they do get to suspend something and stun something down as well. So we're just trying to see if they're gonna use the end of turn DNA or just gonna keep it like that, potentially find an ace or not. But again, like Dan's gonna have quite a lot of memory to work with. He has a Queenbeemon that he can potentially like Digivolve. he won't be able to gain a memory and draw a card off Yuji because there's nothing to push out. So the opponent does suspend down the TIGERVESPAMON and stuns it down with its effect so that it can't go for the OTK in the next turn. And then now with the end of turn, not end of turn yet, but using the Quadrumon's effect to evolve into Wingdra, Wingdra is going to attempt to pop the Queenbeemon, but the nice thing with the new Cannonbeemon is that its protection can be applied all turns, at least once per turn, but also for any other royal-based Digimon. Like it can be itself within the stack, or it can be any right there. So he does let it go, which is a smart move because, you know, if the opponent is going to go end of turn DNA, they can freely swing into the TIGERVESPAMON and he'll have exhausted his protection once per turn, which they do go into that new one right here, suspending down like everything else on the board, which then I would argue like, you know, could have suspended like stunned one of the tamers instead, because Examon was gonna like lock out the unsuspending of the TIGERVESPA either way. And they're going to attempt to swing into it, which I think they probably could have also attempted to swing into security just to deal damage and lessen the amount of potential damage that Dan can dish out later on. Because if they do check away the security, they can still at least like target the TIGERVESPAMON to try to delete it. But then even though they, you know, Dan hasn't used the Cannonbeemon protection yet, he would still have to flip like a security face down, and you have lost like 2 security overall. But either way, in this position, I don't think it matters too much because I feel like Dan has a way to sort of like get rid of this Examon as a whole entirely. And he's going to be able to hatch and Digimon Queenbeemon, have one ready to go. And then with the starter mains, he's going to gain quite a bit of memory because he's going to gain 1 off Faye, he's going to gain 1 off Winner, and he's pretty much going to be starting his turn with 6 memory overall in total. So he has quite a few choices. I feel like you can even like hard drop the TIGERVESPAMON, like to actually like bounce something, but you know, again, the Examon has partition, so I don't think that's the most ideal play. He's gonna go for Funbee that can search, grab some pieces, go for Protoform, evolve into a Forge Bee for 1 cost, and like I mentioned, the main way to play around that partition is to go into that older Cannonbeemon, which can de-digivolve 1 for every face-up security that he has. And this is really good at removing the Examon overall, putting it all the way down to a level 4. And then this is where he can punish and capitalize off of the misplay or the suboptimal play on the Examon side. And then now he has that level 5 once again. If the opponent tries to attack, he can go into TIGERVESPA Ace for free, or otherwise he can go into it in his next turn and then potentially actually start going for some like damage hits and have multiple bodies to swing for checks. So really, again, comes down to what the opponent really has. Can they go into another DNA play? You know, can they even afford to hard drop another level 5, which is going to end up giving a lot of memory? So it looks like they're going to swing and check first. But obviously, that just gives Dan the opportunity to go into TIGERVESPA Ace, bouncing that back to hand, getting rid of it entirely. And now they're just all left with a Dracomon. And because something was placed in security, he can suspend Faye to gain a memory and draw a card if there has 7 or less in his hand, which is an all turns effect, which is absolutely insane. So you can potentially steal your opponent's turn off of TIGERVESPAMON Ace altogether. So the opponent doesn't look like they have any other play to follow up anymore. So they just hard drop an Examon Ace, giving Dan a ton of memory to work with. And for sure, like with that amount, there's no way you can lose to this. Like all you have to do is just find a way to bounce that Examon away anyways. And then you have 2 TIGERVESPAMONs to work with. You have a rookie that just pushed out, and you have 10 memory, which should be easy win from here. So let's see how he kind of does that. So Digivolves into Forge Bee for 1 cost because it gets the cost reduction of the Queenbeemon. I would say like Digivolve into any level 5 and then try to rack up as many DP as you have in security already, because once you go into TIGERVESPAMON, it can bounce anything that has DP equal or less to it. And by going into this Cannonbeemon, sure, you de-digivolve, but there's nothing to de-digivolve on the opponent's side of the board. And like I said, and then you just simply go into TIGERVESPA, bounce that Examon Ace, gain the Ace Overflow, and you're completely free to swing. So Protoform here into TIGERVESPA for reduced cost, and of course, bouncing that Exa, putting 1 in security. Now you're gaining a lot of DP buffs right here. You should be at insane amount of power level that you don't have to worry about like swinging into security and running into anything big, unless if there's like some kind of option cards. But in DP wise, you're totally good. So yeah, start swinging here. Use Yuji to tuck additional sources if you need to for extra DP buffs. Put down the top face down security, unsuspend 1 check at a time, swing again, do it, repeating it. And it really just comes down to what they find in the opponent's side of security, which matters or not. But if not, you still have 10 memory. You have 2 other TIGERVESPA Aces. Even if you lose 1 or 2, you're still keeping turn. You have to lose all 3 in order to Ace Overflow, which I don't see happening. And yeah, he finishes off just like that. This game is going to be facing off against what I believe is Creepymill that also plays the Growlmon, Gilmon, Rush engine overall. And yeah, interested to see how this one goes. Not entirely sure what to expect in this matchup. Just generally, I think Creepymon is just supposed to mill your opponents out. So, you know, the more cards that Dan has in trash is not going to help him too much in this particular deck. The only card that really grabs cards from the trash back is like TIGERVESPAMON to place the Royal Base into your face-up security. So I guess it's a little bit of a race. I guess it's really about him to like trying to set up once again, follow the same game plan, has as many face-up security cards as he can, and then he can go for an OTK potential. They might play some bombs, not entirely sure. I think Crimson Blaze could be a thing as well. But the opponent does go for an early push into the Gil X and then search and then cycle through finding a lot of cards. And then also going with the Wisdom Training ready to go at the back, which is pretty much standard like Growl Rush combos overall. So Dan is now going to push back out, you know, with the Waspmon, and then being able to tuck something away with Puromon. And then now he can use Proto Form to Digivolve into Queenbeemon. This is not too bad, because once you establish this level 5 on the board, first of all, it has like protection. It has a Proto Form recursion as well if you ever do leave the battle area. And at the same time, by having the level 5, you're threatening a potential ace against your opponents. If they attack into you, you just Tiger Vespa and bounce that Growl X, then it's easy because you play around all the undeletion effects and it just doesn't matter to them anymore, because then, you know, Dan is just like going to be in a good position and he can just like swing with Tiger Vespa if he needs to, and so on. But the only issue is like he doesn't have one in his hand, but the opponent doesn't really know per se, so it really just comes down to how they play. The other thing you can actually do is like you can block the attack with Queenbeemon, because he did set up a Queenbeemon in security, which provides his Royal Base cards like with blocker for defensive play. So overall, I think he's in a pretty good position, and I think this is a pretty good spot to be in, especially when it comes to this matchup. So of course, you know, he's considering whether he wants to block or not. And then, like, if he blocks, the opponent is going to gain a bunch of undeletions and all that kind of stuff. So I think just lessen the damage as much as you can against this deck is always still preferred, because they, you know, the intention is to try to like chip away at you and rush at you one at a time. And every attack really does matter. So by slowing it down, it'll be good, just so that, you know, potentially if Creepymon can like dish out a ton of attacks or deal a ton of damage, at least you're still having a healthy amount of security, and then you can always use Puromon to cycle and set up more face-up ones there. Opponent's going to go for a calling play, grabbing pieces back from the trash, which are going to be the rookies, and climb all the way up to another level 4, and going to the ground one for 3 costs instead of 2, so put Dan back to 1 memory, giving him as little to work with as possible, which is not a big deal, because again, I think like having that Queenbeemon is just really good there. You know, it's only a matter of time that he's going to find a TIGERVESPAMON at some point, or otherwise he's going to continue to be able to block one attack at a time per turn. And then now he actually might just go into Queenbeemon instead for 3 costs. And by setting that up is like, you know, with 2 memory, what can the opponent really do to really like try to address that Queenbeemon with protection and blocker? I don't think there's a lot that they can do off of it. So they are going to push out here, Digivolve into a Growl X, once again going to do the cycling shenanigans, draw 1, trash 1. And then are they going to attack right here? Nope. Looks like they're going to go for a purple scramble to Digivolve into Cerberus to pick up piece back, which is a very strong engine, because you can grab Cerb X Digivolve for 0 on top, draw 1, trash 1 once again, and then you get to play like a level 3 body back out, and it also gains rush too, so you can go for like attacks. So they do play this Gilmon. There aren't enough 20 cards in the trash of low players to gain that rush, but thanks to Cerberus and her effect, it gains the rush either way. The idea, I guess, the opponent is trying to go into another Gil X, cycle for more and search for more pieces, and swing and chip away with the 2k here. Now they got 2 attacks happening. So he is going to block with the Queenbeemon, because again, just makes sense, you know, there's not much like value the opponent's really going to get off of that, so might as well. And then the opponent is then Digivolving into a Creepymon, which is going to attempt to delete the Queenbeemon, but again, with the Queenbeemon protection, it's just so good being able to, you know, just put that face up security back face down, and you basically keep on the board, so you're still sticking on there. And the only downside is like, yeah, Dan's gonna have to like mill the top 5 cards of his deck off of that interaction, but then I think it's totally fine. You know, there is a TIGERVESPAMON that I think he wanted to see, but of course, like, you know, then using the end of the turn to attack into security, finding him a Yuji, which is absolutely fantastic. Now he's gonna gain a memory and draw 1, and gonna basically start at 5. He's got 2 Puromons that he can utilize to tuck away, which he wants to, because it's gonna be additional draw cards that he needs. And then by using one or the other, he gets to like cycle for the top 2 security cards. He puts TIGERVESPAMON into security, which is another really cool way how Queenbeemon can synergize together with that card because it reduces the play cost by 8, so they can play out that TIGERVESPAMON, utilize its on-play effect either way to place something back in security, which he places another TIGERVESPAMON, which if the Queenbeemon survives and it attacks the next turn, it can do the same thing again. He's gonna alliance together, and since TIGERVESPAMON becomes suspended, he can use his effect to, put the face up security top face down, and then unsuspend and alliance for 2 checks. And now the opponent has like nothing on the board. He still has 5 memory to work with. He can climb up. Going into a Forge Beemon right there is fantastic because it also provides you additional protection if you ever need to. So, you want to protect your TIGERVESPAMON aside from just like the Queenbeemon, so you have more instances. But it looks like he's just going to Digivolve up with Proto Form to go into the older Queenbeemon, and just to put the opponent to 1 memory. At the end of the day, like I think with 1 memory, there's not a lot they can really do. They have a purple scramble. They could grab pieces back out. They can play a rookie back out as well. But, again, unless if they have like Jack Raid or like Gravity Crush all in one go, they're not going to be able to like do too much here either. And plus that rookie can't even swing because it doesn't gain that rush because they play the BT23 Gilmon just to draw more cards. Going to Gil X and draw more, search more. And at this point, I don't really see a way out for Creepymon, unless if they start dropping like Gallantmons per se and try to target the TIGERVESPA Ace. But again, there is the protection. Or even so, like with that 1 memory, like I mentioned earlier, you're gonna have to have at least Jack Raid and Gravity Crush to continue like pushing for more plays and try to do something. Because either way, like when the turn comes back to Dan, he's just gonna finish the opponents off no matter what. I think it's just easy removal, getting rid of anything that they might have on the board too. So it looks like a promo Gallant does come down for reduced cost, but it's not going to be enough cards in the trash to go for free play. But there is a 13k or higher, which is going to try to attempt to target the TIGERVESPAMON, but it is going to be protective of Queenbeemon, which really makes this deck like incredibly strong when it comes to being able to protect your royal bases, being able to have the offensive strategy. And once it gets to like the mid and late game stages, you're just like almost unstoppable because this deck has like so many tools that can play around so many things, which is really good. You have D-Digivolve, you have bouncing, you have DP, you have like multiple attacks that you can dish off as well. And then of course like swing with the Queenbeemon to play out the TIGERVESPA. TIGERVESPA can always like utilize the trash to put like a royal base back, and then suspending alliancing together with the newly just played, putting the top card face down, and then go for 2 checks, hitting into a Jack Raid, which almost could have been bad because then they could have stole the turn, but you have a memory boost to work with, might as well just use. But at least that's the one of that you see. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Go for another 2 checks, put down the face down security there, deal as much damage as you can, and then you just finish it off like that. The Twilight Angels playmat and dice is now live on the AVAULT store. Make sure to grab them along together with the collection so you get additional memory markers all together. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, whenever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing